There comes a moment in every life when the mirror stops lying, a quiet moment, a trembling moment, a moment when you look at yourself and realize that surviving is no longer enough. You were not born merely to endure the days, to carry the weight of other people's expectations, or to shrink so the world feels comfortable around you. There is something restless inside you, something ancient, something brave, whispering that this is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your decision. You have bent, you have broken, you have carried burdens that were never yours to hold. Yet here you stand, breathing, hoping, still daring to imagine something better. That is not weakness. That is power waiting to be claimed. The world may have told you who you are supposed to be, but deep down you know the truth. You are more than your mistakes, more than your fears, more than the small life you have been settling for. Tonight, we are not here to talk about temporary motivation. We are here to speak about transformation, the kind that shifts your spine, straightens your shoulders, and lifts your eyes toward a future you once thought was too bold to dream. Change does not arrive with applause. It arrives with a decision, a firm, unshakable decision that you will no longer betray your own potential. So before we go any further, I want you to ask yourself one honest question. Are you ready to stop waiting and finally claim the life that has been waiting for you? Because once you decide, truly decide, your life will never be the same again. Once you decide, something shifts in the atmosphere of your life. The same streets look different. The same morning sun feels warmer on your face. It is not because the world has changed overnight, but because you have. Decision is a sacred act. It is a promise you make in the quiet chambers of your own heart. And when that promise is real, it does not shout. It stands firm. It says, no more half-living, no more shrinking, no more waiting for someday. The moment you decide once and for all, you step out of the crowd of excuses and into the company of courage. You must understand that change will not come wrapped in comfort. It will ask you to release what feels familiar. It will demand that you outgrow conversations that once entertained you and habits that once defined you. Growth is not gentle. It stretches you until you meet parts of yourself you have long ignored. But within that stretching is strength. Within that discomfort is discovery. You begin to realize that you are capable of far more than your fear ever allowed you to see. There will be days when doubt returns like an uninvited guest. It will whisper old stories about who you used to be. It will try to remind you of every mistake, every failure, every time you fell short. But listen closely. Those moments were not evidence of your weakness. They were preparation for your wisdom. You are not the same person who stumbled before. You have learned, you have endured, and endurance has carved resilience into your spirit. Changing your life once and for all means taking responsibility without carrying shame. It means saying, yes, I made choices that did not serve me, but today I choose differently. It is a powerful thing to choose differently. When you wake up and decide that your habits will reflect your highest self, not your lowest impulses, you begin to build a new foundation. Small disciplines practiced daily become unshakable confidence over time. Every early morning, every brave conversation, every refusal to quit becomes proof that you are serious about your own transformation. Do not wait for applause. The world often celebrates results, but overlooks the struggle that births them. Change happens in private before it shines in public. It happens when you choose to keep going even when no one is watching. It happens when you forgive yourself and stand up again. It happens when you believe that your future deserves more than your excuses. And one day, without even noticing the exact moment it happened, you will look back and see distance between who you were and who you have become. The fear that once controlled you will feel smaller. The dreams that once intimidated you will feel possible. You will walk differently, speak differently, think differently. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. Changing your life once and for all is not about becoming someone new. It is about finally becoming who you were meant to be. And when you commit, truly commit, there is no force powerful enough to return you to the smallness you have outgrown. There is a quiet revolution that begins the moment you awaken to your own worth. It does not come with fireworks or the sound of drums. It comes like a sunrise, steady, undeniable, and impossible to ignore once it has risen. For too long, you may have measured yourself by the opinions of others, shrinking your brilliance to fit into rooms that were never designed to hold your light. But you were not created to live small. You were not placed on this earth to whisper when your spirit was built to sing. Somewhere along the way, life may have convinced you that you were ordinary. Perhaps rejection left fingerprints on your confidence. Perhaps failure tried to rename you. Perhaps comparison stole the joy from your uniqueness. But hear this clearly. Your worth has never depended on applause, approval, or achievement. It was woven into you long before the world had a chance to label you. You were born with purpose resting in your bones and power flowing through your veins. Awakening to your worth means unlearning the lies you have believed about yourself. It means looking at your reflection and seeing not your flaws, but your resilience. Think about all you have survived, the nights you thought would break you, the disappointments that could have hardened your heart, but instead deepened your wisdom, the tears that fell in silence, watering the soil of a stronger version of you. That is not weakness. That is evidence of strength. When you truly recognize your value, you stop begging for spaces that do not honor you. You stop negotiating your standards to keep others comfortable. You begin to understand that love, respect, and opportunity are not favors. They are reflections of how you choose to see yourself. And when you raise your self-perception, the world responds differently, not because it suddenly became kinder, but because you became clearer. There is power in standing tall in your own identity, power in saying, I am enough, without adding conditions. You do not need to be louder, richer, thinner, smarter, or more like someone else to deserve a meaningful life. Your story, with all its chapters of struggle and triumph, is already proof that you carry something rare, something needed, something irreplaceable. But awakening is not a one-time event. It is a daily decision. Each morning you must choose not to return to the smallness you have outgrown. You must guard your mind against voices that try to reduce you. You must nurture your gifts, even when they are still fragile. Worth grows stronger when it is exercised, when you speak up, when you try again, when you refuse to settle. And once you awaken fully, there is no going back to sleep. You begin to move with intention. You pursue goals not from desperation, but from confidence. You love not from fear of abandonment, but from fullness. You dream not timidly, but boldly, knowing that your existence is not accidental. You were never meant to merely survive your life. You were meant to shape it, to color it with your courage, to mark it with your impact. The moment you awaken to your own worth, you reclaim your power. And when you reclaim your power, you no longer ask the world who you are, you show it. There is a dangerous habit many of us learn without realizing it, the habit of waiting for approval, waiting for validation, waiting for someone to nod their head and say, yes, now you may begin. But greatness has never required permission. It has never knocked on the door of doubt and asked to be let in. It rises from within, bold and unapologetic, and it moves when it is ready. The tragedy is not that the world withholds approval. The tragedy is that we sometimes withhold it from ourselves. How many dreams have been paused because someone else did not understand them? How many talents have been buried because they made others uncomfortable? There will always be critics. There will always be voices that question your timing, your ability, your ambition. Some will disguise their fear as advice. Others will disguise their insecurity as realism. But you must learn to recognize the difference between wisdom and limitation. Not every opinion deserves space in your future. When you stop asking for permission to be great, you begin to trust your own instincts. You stop shrinking your ideas so they sound reasonable. You stop editing your goals so they seem less intimidating. You allow yourself to imagine boldly, to speak confidently, to act decisively. And yes, that may unsettle people. It may challenge the roles they have assigned to you, but your growth is not a betrayal, it is a fulfillment. Fear will also try to act as a gatekeeper. It will ask you, who do you think you are? It will remind you of past failures and predict future embarrassment. But fear is not an authority, it is only a feeling. It does not get to decide the direction of your life. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear vote on your destiny. When you move forward despite trembling, you teach fear its proper place behind you. There is something powerful about a person who no longer seeks validation before taking action. They move differently. They speak with clarity. They pursue opportunities without apologizing for their ambition. They understand that their calling is not a committee decision. It is personal, it is sacred, and it is theirs to honor. You must give yourself the approval you have been waiting for. Approve your growth, approve your ambition, approve your desire for more, not from arrogance, but from belief. The world may not immediately celebrate your steps. It may question them. It may even resist them. But history has always been shaped by those who moved forward before they were fully understood. Imagine what would happen if you stopped waiting, if you started the project, if you applied for the opportunity, if you spoke the truth that has been resting on your heart. Imagine the doors that would open simply because you knocked without hesitation. Greatness is not granted, it is claimed. And the moment you decide that you no longer need permission to pursue the life you envision, you break an invisible chain. You step into a freedom that cannot be revoked by doubt or delayed by criticism. You realize that the only approval that truly matters has been within you all along. Pain is a language we all come to understand, whether we welcome it or not. It enters our lives unannounced, sits heavily on our chests, and dares us to carry it. Some try to outrun it, some try to bury it. But pain has a way of waiting patiently until we are ready to face it. The truth is, pain is not sent to destroy you. It is sent to reveal you. It strips away illusions. It shows you what truly matters. And if you allow it, it becomes one of your greatest teachers. Every scar you carry tells a story, not just of what hurt you, but of what healed you. A scar is proof that the wound closed. It is evidence that your body, your heart, your spirit chose survival. You may look at your past and see heartbreak, betrayal, disappointment, or loss. But look again. Beneath those memories is resilience. Beneath the tears is endurance. Beneath the breaking is rebuilding. You are still here, and that alone is power. There is a choice hidden inside every painful experience. You can let it harden you, or you can let it deepen you. Hardness builds walls. Depth builds wisdom. When you choose depth, you begin to ask different questions. Instead of, why did this happen to me? You ask, what is this teaching me? That shift changes everything. Pain transforms from an enemy into instruction. It begins to shape your character instead of stealing your confidence. Think of the moments that nearly broke you, the nights when sleep would not come because your mind was too heavy, the days when smiling felt like lifting a mountain. Those moments did not come to define you as weak. They came to introduce you to your own strength. You discovered that you could survive what you once feared. You learned that your heart, though bruised, could still beat with hope. That is not small, that is extraordinary. Turning pain into power requires courage. It requires honesty. You must be willing to sit with your wounds long enough to understand them. You must forgive where forgiveness feels impossible. You must release resentment that threatens to anchor you in the past. This is not easy work, but it is sacred work because when you heal intentionally, you break cycles. You stop passing your hurt forward. You transform it into compassion, into empathy, into guidance for someone else walking a similar road. Your struggles can become your voice. Your survival can become someone else's inspiration. The very thing that tried to silence you can become the reason you speak boldly. There is power in saying, I went through that and I am still standing. There is power in showing others that pain does not have the final word. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by what you choose to become because of it. And when you decide that your suffering will not be wasted, when you refuse to let your scars be symbols of shame, you reclaim your narrative. You turn your wounds into wisdom, your trials into testimony, and your pain into power that no one can take from you. There will come a time when choosing yourself feels unfamiliar, almost rebellious. You have been taught to accommodate, to adjust, to make space for everyone else's needs while quietly postponing your own. You learned how to be agreeable, how to be dependable, how to be everything for everyone. But somewhere in that constant giving, you may have abandoned the one person who needed you most, yourself. And growth begins the moment you decide that abandonment ends. Choosing yourself does not mean you stop loving others. It means you stop disappearing for them. It means you no longer silence your dreams to keep the peace. It means you no longer shrink your ambitions to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. That kind of choice can feel uncomfortable because it disrupts patterns. People who benefited from your silence may not understand your voice. Those who were used to your sacrifice may question your boundaries. But discomfort is not a sign you are wrong. Sometimes it is proof that you are finally right. There is a quiet betrayal that happens when you ignore your inner calling. Each time you say later to what matters most, each time you convince yourself that your dreams are unrealistic, you chip away at your own spirit. Over time, that neglect turns into resentment, not just toward others, but toward yourself. Choosing yourself is how you heal that fracture. It is how you rebuild trust with the person you see in the mirror. It may require you to say no when you are used to saying yes. It may require you to walk away from environments that no longer nurture your growth. It may require you to invest time in learning, building, resting, or creating while others misunderstand your focus. But understand this, every meaningful transformation demands courage, and courage is often quiet. It is found in small, consistent acts of self-respect. When you choose yourself, you begin to align your life with your values. You wake up with intention. You protect your energy. You pursue opportunities that stretch you instead of settling for those that merely secure you. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and start honoring the present one. And slowly, the uncomfortable becomes empowering. The guilt fades, the doubt softens. In its place grows confidence, steady and rooted. There is something deeply powerful about a person who stands in their own truth without apology. Not arrogant, not dismissive, just clear. Clear about what they deserve, clear about what they will no longer tolerate, clear about where they are headed. That clarity becomes a compass. It guides decisions. It shapes relationships. It fuels persistence when the journey feels long. You cannot change your life once and for all if you keep placing yourself last. You cannot build a future you are proud of while constantly negotiating your own worth. At some point, you must become a priority in your own story. Not selfish, but self-aware. Not isolated, but intentional. And when you finally choose yourself, fully, unapologetically, consistently, you will discover something remarkable. The world does not collapse, the sky does not fall. Instead, you stand taller, you breathe deeper, you move forward with a strength that comes from alignment. Growth begins there, in that brave, uncomfortable decision to stop betraying your dreams and start honoring them with action. Yesterday can be a heavy thing. It lingers in the corners of your mind, replaying conversations you wish you had handled differently, decisions you wish you had delayed, chances you wish you had taken. Regret has a way of dressing itself as responsibility, convincing you that holding on to it is a form of accountability. But there is a difference between learning from the past and living inside it. One makes you wiser, the other makes you weary. You cannot step into a new life while dragging old regrets behind you. The weight will slow your stride, it will bend your posture, it will whisper that you are unworthy of fresh beginnings because of former mistakes. But mistakes are chapters, not conclusions. They are paragraphs in your story, not the title of your book. If you allow them to define you, you hand over your future to moments that have already passed. There is a quiet freedom in forgiveness, especially when it is directed inward. You may find it easier to pardon others than to pardon yourself. You replay your failures with sharp clarity, holding yourself to a standard you would never impose on someone you love. Yet growth requires compassion. You did the best you could with the knowledge, maturity, and awareness you had at the time. Today you know more. Today you see clearer. That is evidence of evolution, not evidence of shame. Releasing yesterday does not mean pretending it never happened. It means acknowledging it without allowing it to chain you. It means saying, yes, that was a misstep. Yes, that hurt. Yes, I fell short. And then it means rising anyway. The past cannot be edited, but the present is still being written. Every new decision is a sentence that moves your story forward. Sometimes the weight of yesterday is not just regret, but resentment. Old wounds, old betrayals, old disappointments that hardened into silent bitterness. Carrying those emotions into your future is like planting thorns in your own path. They do not punish the person who hurt you, they wound you again and again. Releasing is not about excusing harm, it is about refusing to let it continue to harm you. There is courage in letting go. It requires trust. Trust that your life is not over because of one season, one failure, one wrong turn. It requires belief that redemption is possible, that change is real, that you are allowed to begin again. And you are. You are allowed to wake up and choose differently. You are allowed to outgrow versions of yourself that no longer serve you. Imagine what it would feel like to move without that weight, to make decisions not from guilt, but from clarity, to pursue opportunities without the constant echo of I should have, to breathe without the pressure of what cannot be undone. That lightness is available to you, not because your past was perfect, but because your future deserves space. Yesterday has taught you enough. Let it rest. Take the lesson, not the burden. Carry the wisdom, not the wound. And as you release what no longer belongs to you, you will find that your hands are finally free to build something new, something stronger, something brighter, something shaped not by regret, but by resolve. Failure has a way of arriving uninvited. It does not knock politely or announce its lesson before it enters. It stumbles into your plans, interrupts your confidence, and leaves you standing in the uncomfortable silence of what did not work. In those moments, it is easy to feel exposed, easy to believe that the fall defines you. But a fall is not a definition, it is a direction. It points you toward growth if you are willing to follow it. Every fall is a rehearsal for your rise. Think about it. Muscles grow stronger under resistance. Minds grow sharper through challenge. Character is refined in adversity. If success came without struggle, you would never develop the endurance to sustain it. Failure stretches you. It forces you to examine your methods, your mindset, your discipline. It asks hard questions that comfort never would. And in answering those questions, you become better equipped for what lies ahead. The danger is not in failing. The danger is in misinterpreting failure as final. One closed door does not mean the house is locked. One rejection does not mean you are unworthy. One mistake does not cancel your potential. But if you internalize every setback as proof that you should stop, you deny yourself the very process that builds mastery. Those who appear fearless are often simply those who refuse to let failure have the last word. There is humility in falling. It reminds you that you are human. It softens arrogance. It deepens empathy. When you have tasted disappointment, you become less quick to judge others in theirs. You learn patience. You learn persistence. You learn that progress is rarely a straight line. It curves, it dips, it climbs again. And each dip carries instruction if you are willing to look beyond the embarrassment of it. Redefining failure requires a shift in language. Instead of saying, I failed, say, I learned. Instead of saying, I am not good enough, say, I am not finished growing. That subtle change transforms defeat into development. It places you back in motion, because growth is not about never falling, it is about rising with more awareness each time you do. Consider the courage it takes to try again, to step back into the arena after being knocked down, to risk criticism once more. That courage is forged in failure. Each attempt, even the unsuccessful ones, strengthens your resilience. You begin to understand that your worth is not measured by flawless performance, but by faithful effort. When you look back on your journey, the moments you once labeled as losses may reveal themselves as turning points. They redirected you, they refined you, they prepared you. Without them, you might have remained comfortable but untested, hopeful but unproven. Failure demanded more from you, more focus, more discipline, more belief. So do not fear the fall. Do not let it convince you that you are incapable. Let it train you. Let it instruct you. Let it humble you just enough to grow and embolden you enough to continue. Because every time you rise after falling, you rise wiser. And wisdom is the foundation of lasting success. There is a quiet exhaustion that comes from pretending to agree when you disagree, pretending to be smaller than you are, pretending not to care when something matters deeply to you. Each performance may win you temporary acceptance, but it costs you something far more valuable, your authenticity. And over time, the cost becomes too high. Your spirit grows tired of wearing masks that do not fit. Standing tall in your authentic truth begins with honesty. Not the kind you offer to the world first, but the kind you offer yourself. It asks you to look inward and admit what you truly believe, what you truly desire, what you truly value. That clarity can be unsettling, because once you know your truth, you can no longer comfortably live against it. You can no longer blame confusion for your silence. Awareness demands alignment. The world has a subtle way of shaping people into acceptable versions of themselves. It rewards conformity. It questions difference. It raises eyebrows at boldness. But progress has never come from imitation. It has always come from those brave enough to honor their own voice. When you stand in your truth, you give others permission to do the same. Your courage becomes contagious. There will be resistance. Not everyone will celebrate your authenticity. Some may prefer the quieter version of you, the agreeable version, the version that did not challenge norms or stretch expectations. But your responsibility is not to maintain their comfort. Your responsibility is to maintain your integrity. Integrity is choosing consistency between who you are inside and how you show up outside. Living authentically requires vulnerability. It means speaking your ideas even when your voice shakes. It means admitting your dreams even when they sound ambitious. It means setting boundaries without apology. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is transparency. And transparency builds strength because it removes the burden of pretending. When you stand tall in your truth, you begin to move differently. Your steps carry intention, your words carry conviction. You stop seeking rooms where you must dilute yourself to belong. Instead, you seek spaces where your full presence is welcomed. And if those spaces do not exist, you create them. That is the power of authenticity. It does not wait for permission to exist. There is also peace in authenticity, a deep, steady peace that comes from no longer negotiating your identity. You sleep better when you are not rehearsing who you need to be tomorrow. You breathe easier when your actions reflect your values. You feel lighter when your life aligns with your beliefs. The world shifts when you dare to be fully, unapologetically you, not because the world changes overnight, but because your presence changes it. Your honesty disrupts falsehood. Your confidence challenges doubt. Your uniqueness adds color where there was once sameness. You were not created to be a copy. You were crafted with distinct thoughts, gifts, and perspectives. To hide them is to dim something rare. To embrace them is to honor your design. And when you finally stand tall, rooted in truth, steady in conviction, free from disguise, you do more than change your life. You become a living example that authenticity is strength, and that strength reshapes the world around it. There comes a moment in life when hesitation no longer serves you, when the endless weighing of options, the constant second guessing, and the quiet conversations with fear have kept you in place for too long. That is the moment you must decide, not casually, not temporarily, but with the depth of intention that leaves no room for retreat. Real change begins with a decision that is final in spirit, unwavering in commitment, and rooted in clarity rather than emotion. Deciding deeply does not mean you will have a perfect plan or know every step that lies ahead. It does not mean life will suddenly feel safe or predictable. On the contrary, the act of decisive commitment often thrusts you into discomfort, uncertainty, and challenge. But that is exactly where transformation lives. Until you decide with absolute clarity, until you allow your will to match your words, your life can remain suspended between desire and action, between potential and reality. A deep decision requires more than thought. It requires alignment between mind, heart, and soul. It is the quiet understanding that your life cannot be postponed, that you have spent too many mornings waiting for someone else to give permission, too many nights waiting for circumstances to feel convenient, too many moments hoping that clarity would arrive on its own. When you decide deeply, you claim ownership of your destiny. You move from being a passenger in your own life to the driver of your own journey. Commitment at this level is not impulsive, it is deliberate. It is choosing the path that serves your highest purpose, even if it means leaving behind comfort, familiarity, or the approval of others. It is understanding that some doors must close so others may open. It is acknowledging that sacrifice may be required, but that nothing worth having arrives without cost. Deep decisions honor the truth of who you are and the vision of who you are becoming. There will be moments when doubt tries to erode the firmness of your choice. You will question whether you were too bold, too impatient, or too naive. You may feel the tug of old habits, familiar fears, or comfortable routines that pull you back toward the life you promised to leave behind. But a deep decision acts like a compass. It points you forward when every instinct whispers to retreat. It becomes a force inside you that says, I am committed. I will not turn back. The power of a final intentional decision is that it transforms possibility into action. Once you decide with clarity, your steps gain direction. Your energy aligns with your purpose. Your words no longer betray your intentions because your mind and heart are in agreement. Decisions made superficially can waver like a candle in the wind, but decisions made deeply burn steady, lighting the path ahead even when the road feels long. When you decide once and decide deeply, life responds differently. Opportunities appear where hesitation once blocked them. Challenges become tests instead of obstacles. Growth accelerates because your energy is no longer diffused by indecision. You move with intention, purpose, and the confidence that comes from knowing that your choice is not temporary, not conditional, but final. That is the power of deciding deeply. It is the first unshakable step toward changing your life once and for all.